Dr. Good evening. Thanks very much for your time. Now, there are many South Africans who are like me, right? Who are not fundis or experts, right? But they'll be glued to their television sets tomorrow supporting the Springboks. But patriotism aside, the Springboks do have a lot to offer, isn't it? They're a competitive team.
Evening to you, and obviously to our viewers. Without a doubt, I think one has to look at probably the last year, especially under Erasmus, and see how the Springboks have fared. When you come from a 2-year period where we sunk to probably our lowest ebb in the history of Springbok rugby under Alistair Coetzee, and you take it then to Wellington last year where the Springboks were able to beat the All Blacks, and then this year to draw with them as well. One looks at it and says to themselves, there's not a Springbok team that has probably managed to box above its weight, but it's a team that is showing signs at the right time of really challenging to become world champions. And tomorrow's game really sets up, a spicy a battle between two great rivals in World Rugby. I think World Rugby, when they did initially do the draw and the Springboks were sitting where they were sitting number 6 in the world, then they would have dropped their heads and said to themselves, oh no, what are we doing? However, whatever happens in this encounter tomorrow, people start sitting up and saying to themselves, if both teams do what they need to do and get the final, we'll have a final that not only World Rugby would dream of, but I think any rugby enthusiast and any South African would want to see a repeat of the 1995 World Cup final.
Okay. We'll get to what tomorrow means in a second, but I just want to finish that first point. Going into this tournament, what do the Springboks have going for them? What are they really doing well right now?
They've got momentum, and it's crucial that you have momentum. They come off a rugby championship which they've won, and regardless of what history says, that a team that wins the rugby championship, then the Tri-Nations, never goes on to win the World Cup. However, when it comes to this specific team, which I didn't mention, it came from the doldrums, to be able to go into a World Cup tournament, with a coach that has been at the helm for a year and a bit, it means a lot to them. They've got settled combinations, and I think more than anything, they've been able to build depth, especially this year. The likes of Herschel Yankees, who only played, Super Rugby, and all of a sudden, burst into the international scene and overtook the likes of Ivan van Zyl and, Ambrose Papier. It really means that Rassie has been able to press the right buttons or the right players at the right time. So I think the confidence is there, the momentum is there on the side. They've got the experience. Look at the likes of Bisem Tawarira, the likes of Schalk Brits, Dwayne Vermeulen, who's playing his 50th game tomorrow. So the experience is there, and they've found a good balance. And those combinations, fortunately, have worked for us in the last year. So going to tomorrow's game and going to the tournament itself, I think the Springboks find themselves in a very, very good place.
Well, the All Blacks, of course, may not be at their best or as good as we have seen them over the years, but they remain competitive.
No, without a doubt. I think anyone who disregards the All Blacks, is playing into their hands. However, one needs to mention the fact that the Springboks have been that side that have planted the seed of doubt. I think that win in Wellington, people may underestimate and say, it's a year ago. It was a massive victory for the Springboks, psychologically, first of all. And again, it did come at the perfect time for the All Blacks, where it said to them, when they thought that they were their best, they got toppled, not just away from home, but at home, at a place where the Springboks had never won before. So again, it's important that, you never take the All Blacks for granted. They lost to Australia this year, and everyone thought, oh, well, this is the beginning of the end, and they came back and they responded in the best way the All Blacks can respond, with a convincing victory. And they're going to this World Cup. Yes, everyone will say that there's doubts about them, and maybe they're not their best, and you can see they're starting to experiment. At 10 and 15, Bodum Barrett was their best tennis player at 15, and you got Richie Mo'unga at 10. They don't have Brody Retallick, and Owen Franks not being in the team and so on. But without a doubt, this is a team that knows, first of all, how to win test matches, and this is a team that's chasing their 3rd consecutive World Cup title. So they know how to play tournament rugby, and don't doubt, this All Black team will really, produce the big punches when they have to.
Very quickly, how important is tomorrow's game?
Tomorrow's game, I think for both teams, is important that both of them need to set the bar for how they'll play the rest of the tournament. You know, win or lose, it doesn't matter. These are the two teams that should go through into the knockout stages. However, setting the bar will be critical for them. And the way they play tomorrow is the manner in which they will need to play the remainder of the group and probably the foundation that they will lay when they get into the knockouts. And I keep on saying this for you. Regardless of what people mention, England, Ireland, Wales, you know, all those other teams, and France as well, dark horses, these two teams, I believe, will be the last two teams standing on the 2nd of November. Who wins that game, well, we'll have to wait.
You've got to call it. Who wins tomorrow? Tomorrow,
I've got a slight feeling that the All Blacks might take it 3-5 points.
Not patriotic, man.
It's not about patriotism, it's about saying the sensible thing. And the sensible thing is that when you look at rugby in itself, I think the All Blacks have it in them to beat the Springboks. Whether that will be the same case come 2nd of November, I don't know.
Fatangobeni, thanks very much for coming through.